Hello, it's Sam again from Marketing Meanders with Sally and Sam. And this is just something about freelancing and an idea about coping with rejection almost as a freelancer, which I know is something that comes up a lot in networking circles. And people talk about the imposter syndrome and how you can try and feel better about yourself when trying to sell your services or sell yourself almost to get work. And I mean, I've been a freelancer now just for 2 years or just over 2 years, so not that long. Many other people are far more experienced in this area than me. But I was just thinking about the idea of a limited company because, I mean, I have a limited company as part of my freelancing work in marketing. And I know people, they are either sole traders or they have a limited company or limited liability partnership or whatever it is they might have for tax arrangements and organizational arrangements. But I just thought about it in terms of, I was talking to a contact the other day about selling their services. And as I mentioned, quite often you feel like you're selling yourself because so much of what you do, if you're the only employee of the limited company, for example, or being a sole trader, you feel as if you're having to sell yourself. You're having to sell what you do, and therefore if people don't want that and they specifically reject it and they say no thanks, thank you very much, but no thank you, you almost feel that that's a rejection of you. Your own ego is then on the line, and therefore it can knock you back far more in a far more aggressive way than emotionally perhaps than you think is necessary, but that's because I think you've framed it in your mind as it being you who's being rejected. But I think potentially, I mean, in my way, I'm trying to think a healthier way to look at it is probably the idea of the limited liability. So just as you have limited liability financially and legally, you should also perhaps have limited liability emotionally when you're investing in putting yourself out there with business development and sales. So if people don't decide to work with you, you effectively frame it that you're not selling yourself, even though if you're working on a project or a workshop or providing a service, whatever it might be, it's all about you and what you're personally doing to deliver that project. And your thoughts, your intellectual property is all bound up in it, fine. But I think you should try and consider it that you are actually selling a service. You are selling the service which belongs to the company. And that may be that you actually have a limited liability company, but even if you're a sole trader, of course, as well, it's exactly the same principle. Whatever entity you have, I think just the idea of the limited nature of what it is you're trying to sell. You are selling that service, that product to somebody. And yes, you've got your intellectual property and everything invested in it, and how you can deliver it, and can they work with you? Do they feel happy working with you? Do they think they can have a good relationship working with you? But still, I think framing it in that way before you get into trying to sell your services, and consider the idea of it being limited liability in terms of this product, this service which you're selling, it's divorced from your ego, and therefore if you do get rejected, then you're going, okay, that service, that solution was not correct, and therefore you can then spend the time investigating what it is about the service and the solution, or the fit, the match of that service or that solution for that prospective client that wasn't right. You don't reel off in the other direction, which is the more emotional response, which is, oh gosh, what's it about me? Don't they like me? How have I got this wrong? What's the problem? What have I done that's not correct? And therefore I think you can end up spending a lot more of your time and energy in more of that emotional reaction, even if you're not even thinking that you are. I think you probably are a bit, if you framed it in your own mind as, I'm selling myself here, I'm not selling a service. So I think really afterwards, if you don't get the job, then at least you can actually understand what is it about this particular time and instance and this client that wasn't right in terms of the services I was offering them, the solution, the way I was trying to help them. Because at the end of the day, it's not about them wanting you, it's about you wanting to help them. You're doing something with a product and a service to help them. It's about them. It's not about you. And it's not personally about you most of the time. In fact, pretty much all the time, I think if you're providing a solution and a service, your professional self is a product in itself to a certain degree, but just don't treat it as a personal rejection, because I just think that means that you will both not review why things haven't gone the way you would hope they would, in a more sort of objective way. And then also, if you do get work, perhaps you're not understanding what it is that is the positives that mean that someone wants to work with you as well. So those are my thoughts anyway. I don't know if any of that made sense at all, but I'm putting it out there, and I hope it might be useful as a piece of weekend thinking. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Bye for now.